particular portion that he was allocated. There were other matters which are still pending in court, Mr. Speaker, sir, and therefore we could not do termination and maybe retirement of the commissioners who are members of the National Commission. Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee visited the land and they had an engagement with the squatters. Part of the land, Mr. Speaker, is occupied by Calro and the Kisii Farmers Training Center. The other part is still vacant. However, the land is still, the Calro and the Kisii Farmers Training Center still need land to be able to undertake their activities. And therefore, the committee recommended that the National Land Commission go back to the ground with the assistance of the local leaders, with the assistance of the community, and with the members of the Mabundusi Squatter Society to be able to do a survey and ascertain the actual land that is occupied by Calro and the Kisii Farmers Training Center. Number two, we also recommended that if there will be any land which will be available, apart from the farmers, and training will be necessary, for the farmers, so that whatever is being researched on can be passed on to the farmer, so that they are able to improve their yields, and we have new and modern farming techniques. Mr. Speaker, sir, I move that the report be adopted, and I ask Senator Beatrice Ogola to second. Thank you.
Senator Beatrice Akinyi.
Honorable Speaker, I'm honored to second this motion as presented, as moved by the Honorable Chair, my Honorable Chair, Senator Faki. Honorable Chair, as I second this motion, it is also important to note the role or the non-responsive nature of the National Land Commission in all these petitions. Honorable Chair, some times back on this floor, the Committee of Lands was reminded that we had 13 petitions pending as a committee. And I want to say from the start that Kenyans had a lot Land Commission. But Honorable Speaker, in most of the petitions we are dealing with, we are not able to maybe move with speed over these petitions as expected by the petitioners, because the National Land Commission has been slow. And Honorable Speaker, I want to state that it is either they do not have the capacity, Honorable Speaker, to move the expectations of Kenyans efficiently and effectively, or, Honorable Speaker, they need to come out and tell Kenyans or Parliament clearly that they do not have resources to accomplish the mandates that Kenyans bestowed on them, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this is a petition we dealt with. The committee was able to move to the ground, Honorable Speaker, and as the chair stated, these land issues must be attended to, and Honorable Speaker, it is the responsibility of the National Land Commission to manage public land on behalf of the county government, so we have a lot to expect from them. Historically, we know that a number of places have a lot of injustices that have been meted on them, and those were the core mandates that Kenyans bestowed.
Therefore, Honorable Senators, I propose the question that the Senate adopts the report of the Standing Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources on a petition to the Senate by representatives of Mwabudusi land squatters in Babalacho Ward in Kisii County concerning delayed allocation of alternative land by way of resettlement or compensation for the ancestral land that was originated by the government of Kenya for creation of the Kisii Agricultural Institute and the Kisii Farmers Training Center, laid on the table of the Senate on Tuesday, 7th October 2025. We give a few senators to make their comments. Senator Onyonka Richard, Momoima.
Ndugu Spika, ningependa kutoa shukrani zangu kwanza kwa mwenyekiti wangu wa kamati ya ardhi katika hili jumba la Seneti. Ndugu Spika, hili jambo la hawa wananchi wa Mwabundusi ambao shamba yao ilichukuliwa na serikali miaka karibu, ndugu Spika, miaka 80 iliyopita, ni jambo ambalo limekuwa likiwakera hawa wananchi wa Mwabundusi. Ndugu Spika, hawa wananchi walipokuja hapa Nairobi mara ya kwanza tukakutana nao, kwa sababu ni viongozi wa mashinani ambao tulikuwa tunajuana na ni wazee ambao wengine wao washamaliza kufanya kazi ya serikali na ni retirees. Walikuwa nasema hili jambo la hii shamba na alifuatilie. National Land Commission wakipata kuna jambo ambalo wananchi lisema kuhusu shamba na vile wamesumbuka, hawachukui muda wao wa upesi ili kujaribu nini kusuluhisha hii shida. Lakini ndugu Spika, ukiangalia uongozi wetu na uangalie katiba yetu iliandikwa ikamaliziwa, na ningependa kutoa shukrani sana kwa mzee Raila kwa sababu yeye ndiyo mtu wa kwanza ambaye alikuwa anasema tunahitaji kamati ambayo itakuwa inasuluhisha mambo ya mashamba nchini Kenya kihistoria. Ilikuwa jambo la kwanza. Jambo la pili, ndugu Spika, hii shamba ambayo iko katika eneo la Kisii Town ni shamba ambako tuna ile idara ya serikali inaitwa Kibit, ni ya kujenga, ambako ina National Youth Service hapo, ambako ina Veterinary Department hapo, Kisii Bottlers ilikuwa hapo, na wakati huu tena tumeongeza Cancer Center hapo. Na ndugu Spika, shamba hii yote kwa mwanzo, wakati hii habari ilipokuja, tulikuwa tukichuja, tukiangalia shida ni nini, ndio hawa wazee wakasema sisi hatutaki kuhusika kumuondoa Kalro, hatutaki kuondoa Kibit, hatutaki kuondoa Veterinary Department, lakini babu zetu walikuwa na shamba ambayo ilikuwa ni eka 480. Na wakati huu, wakati tulipeana hii shamba kwa serikali, ilikuwa iwe eka 86. Na makubaliano yapo, agreement ziko, na kila kitu iko. Kwa hivyo ndugu Spika, baada ya hawa wazee kuja kwa National Land Commission, tumeketi na kamati yetu ya ardhi hapa kwa Senate, na ningependa kusema kuwa ndugu Spika, ninafurahia sana kwa sababu kamati ya hii Senate inayohusika na mambo ya mashamba imesema kuwa lazima ile idara ya shamba ambaye inafanya nini survey iende pale Kisii, ifanye survey tujue hii shamba yo na ile ambayo inaidali. Ndugu Spika, kamati ya shamba imesema kuwa idara ya livestock development ambayo iko hapo kwa hiyo shamba nayo iangaliliwe tujue eka zao ni ngapi. Alafu mwisho kamati ikasema kuwa ile shamba ambayo itabakia ambayo haina, ndugu Spika, ambayo haina wakaaji, kwa sababu ukienda pale hapo mahali ambayo inaitwa Iteresi ama Mwabundusi utapata kuwa kuna karibu eka 150 ambayo hakuna mtu, ni uwanja tu, hakuna mtu ambaye anaishi hapo. Na idara na department zote za serikali already ile 85 acres hapo ndio wako. Hata Kenya National Institute Kisii iko kwa hiyo shamba, na hawa wazee walisema hawataki kujihusisha na hayo mashamba ambayo yako na idara za kiserikali kwa sababu wanajua uzuri wa idara za kiserikali. Walikuwa wanauliza ikiwezekana afueni yao ilikuwa waulize ikiwezekana ili survey ifanywe, ambayo hii kamati imekubaliana survey itafanywa, na hii kamati imesema kuwa viongozi wale ambao tupo, ambao tumeuzishwa, wote waketi chini baada ya hawa wazee kukaa chini na National Land Commission, alafu survey ifanywe. Ndugu Spika, ningependa kusema kuwa sijui kama Mheshimiwa Faki alikuwa amejua hivi, lakini kuna wakati ambako ile kamati ilipofika hapa na hapa bunge, waliporudi actually walienda wakafanya survey na wale maafisa wa survey ambao ni wa kiserikali, na nadhani hiyo ripoti imeisha. Na ningependa kusema ndugu Spika kuwa ingawa kamati ambayo inashughulika na mambo ya ardhi, National Land Commission, imejaribu sana ndugu Spika kujihusisha, ningependa kusema hivi. Number one, Kenya yetu ina mambo mingi sana kuhusu mashamba ambao mengine yamechukuliwa, ambayo yako title deed 2, 3, 4. Mengine ni mashamba ya mashule ambako watu walienda, hawa ambao ni mabwenyenye wakachukua kama hizo. Ningependa kutoa request yangu Mheshimiwa Speaker, kuwa National Land Commission ijue commission hii haja yake ilikuwa kusuluhisha shida na vita ambavyo viko pale mashinani. Na ningependa kusema ndugu Spika kuwa wakijihusisha vilivyo, haya maneno yote, vile tuna wale maskwota, ni nani ambaye amenyang'anywa shamba lake, pengine wananchi wengi hata wangependa kukimbia na hizi makesi kwenda kule kotini, kwa sababu saa zingine ndugu Spika, kesi za mashamba zinachukua zaidi ya miaka 10 kusuluhisha. Kwa hivyo ningependa kusema kuwa Mheshimiwa Faki, kamati yako ya ardhi umefanya kazi nzuri. Tena ningependa Mheshimiwa Spika kusema hivi, nilisikia ndugu zangu wakisema kuwa kuna mambo fulani wangependa serikali ijihusishe, na mimi wacha niseme hivi. Ndugu Spika, ukiangalia hii ardhi sasa, serikali ihakikishe kila mtu, kila mseneta, kila governor, hata president mwenyewe aingie kwa ardhi sasa. Ndio sasa tuanze kujua ni nani ana shamba halali na nani hana, ili rekodi zipatikane, alafu suluhu ipatikane kama kuna vita ama watu hawaelewani. Na lazima serikali ijuzishe vilivyo kuhakikisha kuwa hili jambo, at least tuone sasa kuwa vile mnavyosema kuwa hii serikali inaangalia mambo ya watu maskini, wale ambao wako pale chini, tuone kama hili shamba, hii maneno ya mashamba yatasuluhishwa, Mkenya kuitwa mskwota kwao yaishe. Kwa hivyo kumalizia, ndugu Spika, ningependa kusema kuwa kwa ndugu yangu Faki, asante sana mwenyekiti, umefanya kazi nzuri. Na tena ningependa kutoa heshima zangu sana kwa hii kamati ya bunge, kwa sababu mmetoa afueni kwa hawa wazee ambao wengine wao wameenda retire. Wale walikuwa hapa watatu ni miaka 81 ndugu Spika. So ni heshima sana, na najua hata wajukuu wao watafurahia kuwa at least justice imekuwa served. Nashukuru sana ndugu Spika.
Asante sana. Kwa hivyo naomba mwasilishi wa hoja hii aweze kujibu.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika, naona unajitahidi kwa Kiswahili, kwa sababu juzi tulipokuwa Meru ulipata shida ya kutamka utepetevu. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii. Nimshukuru Senator Beatrice Ogola kwa ku second motion hii. Vile vile pia namshukuru Senator Onyonka ambaye ni senator wa Kisii, ambaye alisimamia swala hili, akihudhuria mikutano na vikao ambavyo tulifanya na watu wake wa Kisii kuhusiana na swala hili. Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kweli kwamba National Land Commission haifanyi kazi yake kwa haraka kama vile inavyostahili, kwa sababu kwanza wana shida ya bajeti, na vile vile pia wana shida zingine za msingi ambazo zinawazuia wao kufanya kazi zao kikamilifu. Kwa mfano, sisi ripoti zetu nyingi zilichelewa kwa sababu commission ilikuwa haijakuja mbele yetu kuweza kueleza yale mambo yanayopaswa kueleza kuhusiana na haya masuala tofauti. Lakini katika kikao cha mwisho na mwenyekiti aliweza kuthibitisha kwamba ataweza kutilia nguvu masuala hayo ili kuona kwamba ripoti zetu hazichelewi, na pia yale mahitaji ya wananchi ambao wanataka kuchunguzi hawezi kucheleweshwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, ripoti hii nafikiri ikitekelezwa, zile dukuduku na yale matatizo ambayo hawa wananchi wa Mwabundusi wameweza kuona kwamba haki imetendeka. Ardhi ilikuwa imetengwa ya maskota wote ilikuwa ni eka 400. Karo walisema yao ni eka 100. Kwa hivyo ziko karibu eka nyingine 300 ambazo kama zitaweza kugawanywa wataweza kupata afueni wale ambao wameishi pale kwa muda wa mababu na mababu. Mheshimiwa Spika, vile vile kama kamati tutaweza kusimamia wizara pamoja na National Land Commission kuhakikisha kwamba hizi ripoti zote ambazo tumezileta mbele ya bunge zimeweza kutekelezwa na kwa muda unaofaa. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika, na naomba kwamba swala la kupigia kura mswada huu kulingana na kifungu cha 66(3) cha kanuni za Senate liweze kuahirishwa mpaka siku za usoni. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
Na mwenyekiti, ombi lako limekubalika. Next on.
Order number 21, motion, report of the Standing Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources on a petition to the Senate by Mr. Najib Shashman and other petitioners concerning recognition of land ownership rights and redress of historical injustices in Mombasa County.
Mwenyekiti wa kamati ya ardhi, mazingira na maliasili.
Asante Mheshimiwa Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the Senate adopts the report of the Standing Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources on a petition to the Senate by Mr. Najib Shamsan and others concerning recognition of land ownership rights and redress of historical land injustices in Mombasa County, laid on the table of the Senate on Tuesday, 7th of October, 2025. Mr. Speaker, sir, Mombasa and the coast region has had the unique land ownership tenure, which is also known as houses without land, where I own the house, but the land belongs to somebody else. Most of this ownership, Mr. Speaker, came up as a result of the historical nature of the coastal, or the 10-mile coastal strip, where land was owned or was in the trusteeship of the Sultan of Zanzibar. When the Sultan relinquished the coastal strip to the government of Kenya, there were no efforts put in place to be able to rectify this problem. And most of the land, apart from the few that was allocated to the people, most of the land remained in the hands of the government, and at the same time took advantage of that and allocated themselves a lot of land in the coast region at the expense of the citizens of that region. Mr. Speaker, therefore you'll find that in most areas like Kisauni, Changamwe, even the island, you'll find that many people don't have titles to the houses that they own. The late President Moi in the 1980s made an embargo, declared an embargo that all the people who are owning land within the island will only sell the land to the people who own houses. And at that time, Mr. Speaker, sir, the houses, the land was going for about 30,000 for those on the main road and 15,000 for those behind the main roads. Many people took advantage of this and they were able to regularize their position. However, in places like Kisauni, in places like Changamwe, this tenure system is still persisting. Mr. Speaker, sir, currently the owners of the land are imposing exorbitant land rent on the people owning these houses. They will wake up in the morning and say that we are now increasing the monthly rent from 500 shillings to 1,500. Some are even asked to pay 10,000. Some are asked to pay 15,000. Last week I saw some notices which were served on some residents of the island, where they are being asked, you either pay 6.5 million for your plot, or you pay rent at a sum of 6,000 shillings per month for that portion, which sometimes measures about 50 by 40 or 80 by 100, and so on and so forth. So, Mr. Speaker, this is a continuing problem. It is a continuing problem. People have not been able to develop their houses because when they want to develop, they still have to go back to the landowner for a consent. And the consent is awarded on the basis of the value you want to put on that house as a consent fee to the landowner. And then on top of that, you continue paying the ground rent. The only document they normally have is the building plan, which is signed by the landowner and the developer. So that if you want to go to the bank, you cannot be able to access to credit. If you want to maybe bond or bail somebody who has been charged with a criminal offense, you cannot be able to take that document to the court for issuance of the bail. And you cannot be able, in a nutshell, you cannot be able to use that document at any other place apart from your relationship with the landowner. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, we investigated this. We visited Mombasa. We had presentations from the National Land Commission. We had representations from Mr. Nagib Shamsan. We had representation from Mr. Abdullahi Farah, who is an elder resident in Mombasa. And we had a serious consideration. In fact, we did discuss these issues with the National Land Commission and were able to see what could be done in order to be able to resolve these issues. So the National Land Commission also did their own investigation, and they presented their report to the petitioners on the historical land injustice in the last month of September in Mombasa. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, we are recommending the following: that first of all, the National Land Commissions should expedite all the investigations into historical land injustices claims in Mombasa, and makes final determination within 3 months upon adoption of this report by the Senate. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm aware that they have already made their recommendations, and their recommendations are twofold. Number one, that the national government comes in to acquire the land which is owned by these private landowners and redistribute it to the people who are resident on those portions of land. And that in the meantime, pending the government doing that, pending the government acquiring this land for purposes of resettling those people, there should be no evictions in Mombasa and the coast region in general. The second recommendation we are making, Mr. Speaker, sir, is that the Mombasa County government to investigate matters of alleged illegal subdivisions of land and streamline the remittance of land rates by the absentee landlords. Mr. Speaker, sir, you will find that most of these landlords do not pay the land rent, the land rates that are due to the county government of Mombasa. The county government has also allowed subdivisions, even when there are people with questionable documents. For instance, the land at Mwembekuku, Mr. Speaker, sir, it was subdivided. It was one land parcel, but it was subdivided into portions, all of which have now been valued by the landowners at Kenya shillings 5 million per plot. These amounts, Mr. Speaker, sir, are very exorbitant to the people who own those houses, because they cannot be able to buy those houses, and the landowner is at liberty to sell to any other willing buyer. Therefore, the county government of Mombasa to investigate all matters of illegal subdivisions and streamline the remittances of land rates by the absentee landlords. Number three, the Ministry of Lands and Public Works and the National Land Commission should come up with a reasonable land valuation criteria to enable the landowner to charge the lessee and the tenants fairly. Mr. Speaker, sir, the landowner does not use any formula of charging the rent, the land rent. They'll just wake up one day and say, now we are issuing a notice that effective from 1st of November, we are going to charge you 3,000 shillings per month for your plot. So this one has to come to a stop, Mr. Speaker, sir, because already these people have been paying the rent. And for the many years that they have paid, maybe they are not being offered any service by the landowner. Number four, the National Commission undertakes a thorough analysis to document the challenges and propose context-specific interventions that will inform future policy reforms and legislative amendments to ensure equitable land distribution and conflict resolution. These proposals are to be shared with the committee on or before the 31st of December. Mr. Speaker, sir, here we are addressing the issue of policy, because at the moment the government does not have any policy on what happens to these people who have been owning houses but they don't own the land. Can the government maybe come up with a policy that they acquire the land from the landowner and then allocate it to the house owners at a reasonable price so that people can be able to be settled and they obtain titles for the land that they own? Mr. Speaker, sir, this is the report on the land historical injustices. The committee has taken the time to visit Mombasa and be able to see for themselves the problem that these issues has generated. Previous attempts, Mr. Speaker, sir, were done. I remember in the year 2000 and between 2003 and 2006 and 7, there was a committee which was established by the Minister of Lands, headed by Professor Kivuza Kibwana, who was then Minister for Lands, to deal with the issues of these historical land injustices in the coast. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move, and I ask Senator Maruma to second this report. Thank you.
Senator Maruma.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to second this motion on the report on historical land injustices in Mombasa. Being a resident of Mombasa, I'm well privy and apprised to this issue of historical land injustices in Mombasa and the issue of people who have built houses but do not own the land. Mr. Speaker, this is an issue of historical land injustice, and it should be addressed by the National Land Commission. And I want to also decry the complacence and the lack of assertion by asserting themselves, National Land Commission asserting themselves to resolve the issues which are very rampant within the coast region of historical land injustices. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to comment about the Bundusi, but didn't give me opportunity. It's an issue where a historical land injustice claim has been laid within NLC, but NLC is not keen on addressing that injustice. Back to Mombasa, Mr. Speaker, there are many people who are suffering, and the NLC can apply themselves judiciously to resolve that issue. Mr. Speaker, these issues are not only unique to Mombasa. Even in Taita Taveta, there are areas where even government institutions have taken land belonging to the public. We have cases in Taita Taveta where NTSA has taken land, they're claiming that land is theirs, and yet there are people who have built houses and now they want to evict those people. We have a case where the prisons department has taken a big chunk of land in a place called Ore, in Voi, where the people of Ore are farming, but because there was a gazette notice in the 70s where the government gave land to the prison department. That land, the prison department is claiming it, and they've started constructing houses without a title deed. And the money that they're using is because they were given by NLC compensation because of construction of SGR. And the question that we've been asking ourselves, is it proper for government to compensate a government entity, land? So, Mr. Speaker, the issues of Mombasa and the coast region are very valid, and the chair has explained very well that these are issues that need to be addressed by NLC and the Ministry of Lands. I'm happy to note that the ministry and the government has gone ahead and provided a framework of purchasing some of the land and settling the residents. This is an issue that we must laud, and we need expedition of that process so that the people of Mombasa can live comfortably. We have a house, Mr. Speaker, that was built by my family in 1970 in Mombasa, but up to date, we are still paying land rent for all those years, over 35 years, Mr. Speaker. So I'm hoping that the recommendations of this report would be expedited, would be implemented, so that the historical land injustices of Mombasa can be addressed. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senators, I propose the question that the Senate adopts the report of the Standing Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources on a petition to the Senate by Mr. Najib Shamsan and others concerning the recognition of land ownership rights and the redress of historical injustices in Mombasa County, laid on the table of the Senate on Tuesday, 7th October 2025. Senator Beatrice Sakin, Owola.
Honorable Speaker, I rise to support the motion as moved by Senator Faki, who is the chair of the Constitution and in the Land Act, needed to have vibrant offices at the counties, Honorable Speaker. The National Land Commission at the county devolved offices that are fully constituted and not only run by a one-man officer in the name of coordinators that they have in the counties. Because the issues that NLC are dealing with are so many and not only limited to the land historical injustices. Initially, when the National Land Commission was constituted, they had what we call the county land boards as a decentralized structure of NLC that had the coordinator itself, that had other professionals, either surveyors or adjudication officers, but that made it possible for the National Land Commission to deal with the many issues NLC has. But we have a situation where NLC is mainly running from the national level and only keep one officer that is able to just send reports. That is not the dream that Kenyans had. But, Honorable Speaker, I support this motion, and I say the historical injustices that have been presented here must be attended to in time. We have proposals that have been brought out in the report. One of them is acquisition, a proposal by National Land Commission itself that the government should acquire land in order to resettle some of the petitioners. Honorable Speaker, if we have to go this way, Honorable Speaker, I suggest that in the acquisition process, the evaluation must be done properly, and before the land is picked by the government to settle, compensation must be done well in advance. Honorable Speaker, we have projects all over in this country where projects are undertaken, land has already been picked acquired by the government, but after that, our people cry for compensation for a long time. The other option that was proposed here is that the legal subdivisions must be looked into, and then a thorough investigation must be done by NLC. Honorable Speaker, the issue of investigation is crucial because it would not, what NLC, their findings on investigation, if they were to do, would help NLC also solve other related historical injustices elsewhere. So, Honorable Speaker, I support this motion, but I want to emphasize that the National Land Commission, we must look at the capacity of National Land Commission in terms of resources, in terms of the professionals that they have, so that they are able to address the issues that are being raised by Kenyans, that are being brought to the Senate here and elsewhere, because that is the main reason that an NLC was constituted. Honorable Speaker, I support.
Thank you. Having no other member interested to contribute, I call upon the mover to reply.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii kwamba dhulma za kihistoria kwa masuala ya ardhi katika eneo la Pwani na Mombasa ni jambo ambalo limekuwa ni donda sugu kwa wakazi wa Mombasa. Mheshimiwa Spika, vilio vya watu wa Mombasa ni kwamba swala hili la umiliki wa nyumba bila ya ardhi ni jambo ambalo ni lazima serikali liingilie liweze kutatua, kwa sababu serikali ina uwezo na ina rasilimali za kutosha kuhakikisha kwamba wale ambao wanamiliki ardhi zile wanaweza kulipwa fidia ama kulipwa ridhaa ili waweze kutoa ardhi hizi kwa wananchi wa kawaida. Mheshimiwa Spika, tunajua serikali imetoa mikakati na maelezo kwamba wataweza kununua ardhi hizi, lakini sasa kwa muda wa miaka 2 mfululizo zile pesa ambazo zinatengwa kwa masuala haya ya ardhi zinatumika kwa miradi mingine ambayo inatokea ya serikali. Hivyo basi ni kwamba serikali haina nia ya kuweza kulimaliza tatizo hili la ardhi kikamilifu katika maeneo ya Pwani. Mheshimiwa Spika, wengi ambao wako pale, wengine wana uwezo wa kulipa, lakini kwa sababu hakuna mfumo ambao utaweza kuleta usawa ama ukaweza kuleta ile tunaita haki kwa pande zote, ili yule mwenye ardhi asipoteze ardhi yake bila ya malipo na yule mwenye nyumba pia naye asiweze kudhulumiwa kwa sababu ameweza kuwekeza katika nyumba ile kwa muda mrefu. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, National Land Commission mbali na haya pia ingeweza kuleta pamoja wenye ardhi na wenye majumba ili waweze kuwa kwa mfano eneo la Kisauni waweze kuwa na kauli moja kuhusiana ni thamani ya zile ardhi ambazo ziko katika eneo la Kisauni. Kwa mfano Changamwe pia wawe na mfumo kama huo ili watu waweze kuelewana na waweze kulipa kiwango ambacho kitakuwa kinaridhisha kwa kile upande. Mheshimiwa Spika, naomba bunge hili kubali ripoti hii na naomba kwamba uwekaji wa swali uhairishwe kuambatana na kifungu cha 66(3) cha kanuni za Seneti hii mpaka siku nyingine. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii.
Yes, that request is granted. Now, honorable senators, there was clear guidance earlier on that after disposing of motions up to order 21, we go back to order number 1717. Clerk.
Order number 17, the County Oversight and Accountability Bill, Senate Bills number 3 of 2024, second reading, resumption of debate interrupted on Tuesday, 28th October 2025.
Honorable Senators, it is now resumption of debate for the County Oversight and Accountability Bill, Senate Bills number 3 of 2024. Senator Beatrice Ogola, you had a balance of 9 minutes. I do not know whether you still want to pursue your minutes or you want to cede ground to another senator to proceed. You may take the floor.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I will only use the next 2 minutes and cede the next minutes for my colleagues. Honorable Speaker, I support this bill primarily because it will improve efficiency, as I indicated, Honorable Speaker, and the fact that it emphasizes on the access to information that members of the public will be getting. This bill will enhance public participation because it even mentions the improvement of public participation facilities. However, I indicated yesterday, Madam Speaker, that the lack of adequate and quality public participation is not necessarily for lack of facilities, Madam Speaker, but it is because of the non-structured way in which public participation has been undertaken. Madam Speaker, as I stand down, I support this bill, and I want to say that for us to get quality public participation, we must also include the education of the public, members of the public, so that they also participate in oversight of the projects that we have. Madam Speaker, I support.
Thank you, Honorable Senator. Senator Mwaruma Jonas Mwashushe, Taita, Taveta County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity to support this very important motion, bill, the County Oversight and Accountability Bill, sponsored by Senator Kisang and Senator Ledama Olekina, that is Senator Narok. In the previous parliament, we had opportunity to go through this same bill, and I think it did not go all the way. It died on the way, and I'm happy that he was able to bring it back. Madam Speaker, in the new constitution, devolution is the best thing that we ever gave to ourselves in the new constitution. And I allowed the late former Prime Minister, Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, who was the main proponent of the new constitution, and his support for devolution even after the new constitution was promulgated. Madam Speaker, will ever, forever, as small communities, remember the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga for his support for devolution, which then devolved money and power from the center to the counties, Madam Speaker. This bill is informed by the fact that counties, we don't have adequate mechanisms of doing oversight. Looking at all the structure of oversight in the counties and for the county governments and the whole ecosystem oversight, there are gaps in terms of how the oversight is undertaken, and that is what has informed Senator Ledama to bring this bill. Madam Speaker, primary oversight is the way the county assembly is formed. It is not proper oversight, Madam Speaker, and several reasons and theories have been advanced why the county assembly operates. Even the National Assembly with the NGCDF, they have made themselves to be implementers of projects and programs, and so they contradict themselves in terms of the principle of separation of powers, where the person who is supposed to do oversight becomes the implementer of projects and programs. For example, if a construction is taking place and the MCA has been involved in identifying the constructor, there is no way that MCA can be able to oversight that project. Madam Speaker, also there is an issue to do with the assembly. The assemblies are not free. They have to work under the whims of the executive, in that if they are to request for funds from the control of budget, then the CECM of finance has to sign the requisition, and therefore they become a bit vulnerable because then they are not independent. And we've worked on the independence of the assemblies so that they can be stronger and they can do their work without undue strangulation from the executive. So, Madam Speaker, the other then level of oversight is the Senate. For us, the committees that do oversight, the PIC and the PAC, also do really a post-mortem, where money has already been spent, some of it reports, which is not early enough to nip in the bud issue to do with the corruption in the county governments. And so, Madam Speaker, that is why even when you do reports to the EACC to do investigations, or the DCI to do even investigations, they take a very long time for them to give reports and to act on the recommendations by the Senate. So that whole infrastructure and ecosystem of doing oversight is not well constituted, and that's why I think Senator Ledama Olekina has seen it fit then to bring this bill here. We have tried, Madam Speaker, even in our counties, to try and do oversight. For example, when you see an act of malfeasance in the operations of the county government where there is possible loss of money from our whistleblowers. One time I tried to write to DCI here in Nairobi. DCI Nairobi wrote to DCI Taita Taveta, and the CCIO called me. When I went there, the CCIO was telling me, okay, now then you have to do a report, a statement. You write a statement, and I asked her, so after that then you'll have to bring evidence and stand on the dock so that then you can defend your allegations. I told her, nonsense. I have the Senate, and I can still do my work within the Senate. And now then you get worried. Why is it that the DCI cannot act on information that has been given by whistleblowers, that a senator or a parliamentarian has then to do with, has to do a statement and defend the allegations? So if they can do that to me, what about the individuals who are seeing, maybe the PMC members, who are seeing possible corruption or corruption actions when they bring this to the DCI? How are they assisted? So, Madam Speaker, I want to say that I support this bill for the simple reason that it gives a framework for doing oversight. Madam Speaker, I think this would be the third important bill, apart from DORA and CARA, because then DORA has to do with vertical division of revenue, and CARA, horizontal division of revenue. But after that money is appropriated to the counties, how do we as senators and Senate, as a corporate, do oversight? At times we request for statements here. How long does it take even for the statements to be responded to? It takes a very long time for the statements to be responded to. I was getting amused yesterday when I brought a statement for it to be looked at, and I was told, no, this was responded to a long time ago about the boundary of Kajiado and Taita Taveta, where the people were fighting the other day, and people even died, and houses were torched. So when I wanted to bring a statement on how the surveyors did the survey and where the cut line was, I was told this particular question was already answered too. But can you imagine from 2024, I've not received the response up to date when I'm asking another question. So we have those weak links that are supposed to be filled by this bill by Senator Ledama Olekina. In this bill, a lot of emphasis has been put on public participation. Madam Speaker, public participation actually is there. It happens in the writing of CIDP, in the making of the annual development plans, even in the county fiscal strategy paper. All these processes, public participation takes place. But the question that we need to ask ourselves is, even as public participation is taking place, is it effective? Is it meaningful, Madam Speaker? And we have theories. Theories are many, and one of the theories is that, and what I observe in what is happening as public participation, it is just tokenism. It is tokenism. Sherry Einstein postulated a theory on public participation, and I think what I see happening in our counties is just tokenism, which is the lowest level of public participation, where government officers come, they give you documents, huge documents, and on the same day, you are supposed to read them, internalize them, understand them, and comment on them. That is just ineffective form of public participation. Number two, sometimes you are told that come for public participation, but then already there are people who are selected, handpicked, to respond to that or to participate in that public participation. And Madam Speaker, what I would want to say is that for want of a proper framework and a proper law to guide public participation, though there are policies here and there, but without a proper law which criminalizes directly lack of proper and effective and meaningful public participation, we might not go far. In the proposal, in the bill, a lot of premium has been given in construction of halls to do public participation. As Senator Beatrice has said, public participation and effective public participation, for that matter, is not taking place for lack of venues and halls to do public participation. By the way, personally, much as there's a lot of premium given to halls, I don't believe in construction of halls. Because then, if you construct halls, how do you align the construction of halls with the sustainable development goals? Because in the sustainable development goals have to do with the reduction of poverty, supply of water, improvement of health, and so on and so forth. Do we just then build halls? Because even when you build halls, the sustainable development goals have not been achieved at that point. So I think we must really see how to remove the much premium placed on construction of halls, because you can have areas where the halls are not a priority. And so when people come for public participation in the annual development plan and the budgets, they might be told that we will not do this project because then as a priority we have to build a hall to undertake that public participation. And yet when we do that hall, already we are not achieving much in terms of our priorities. So I would say that we try and see how we can tweak the bill to remove much premium on the halls, because then they might not be a priority to that area. Madam Speaker, the also other contention that I had is that a senator will do a public or will do oversight. Now the courts have already pronounced themselves in a ruling that Senate does not do oversight as an individual. They do it in a corporate manner. And so I think also there is need a senator for the distinguished Senator Narok to look into that so that we see how much can be done in a corporate manner as opposed to a senator doing a oversight. But I know where he's coming from because of the weakness of oversight being done by MCAs. That's why he has laid a premium and emphasis giving facilitation in the oversight of counties. Madam Speaker, I would want to say that Madam Speaker, I would want to say that a lot of work needs to be done in terms of EACC and DCI taking seriously the recommendations of the Senate. And I think we need to put a timeline, and I don't know how that would be into the time taken by the DCI and the EACC to do them, to try to prevail upon them, so that we have timelines for reports and recommendations to be undertaken that have to do with corruption. But they say, no, we'll take our time to do the investigations and come up with the recommendations, either for prosecutions, taken to ODPP, and then taken to the courts. I wish that can be expedited within this law. Number two, what is wrong with within this law? Number two, what is wrong with this bill having a clause or two requiring the documents that are sent to the county assembly, for example, the quarterly reports, and a copy taken to the control of budget on the quarterly implementation of the budgets. Also, the senators getting a copy. We've told the control of budget to try and see if we can get the requisitions by the counties to the control of budget. We get a copy of the requisition as senators. What is wrong with maybe having that clause in this bill so that any requisition done by the county government to the control of budget, a copy is given to the county assembly and a copy is given to the senators so that we know what was requisitioned for. If a contractor or the money for a contractor to pay a contractor was requisitioned, then is it possible I also know that this particular money was to pay this contractor ABC? And if that contractor is not paid after that money has been released, then we raise questions. Otherwise, if we don't tighten the ropes, then the devolution that the father of devolution had envisaged or had supported, had died for, the late Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, may his soul rest in peace, will not be achieved. And for us, the small communities, we will not be able to achieve the fruits of devolving money from the central government to the county government. What will just subsist is money and corruption given to the county governments. Instead of getting goods and services procured by the counties, we'll just see people growing in their stomachs, and the county is not getting services in terms of healthcare, services in terms of the roads built, services in terms of agriculture, VTCs, ECDs constructed across the country. We've gone with the Education Committee, and it's sad to say that there are counties that have not constructed as many VTCs as possible. Yet the money from 2013 is going to the counties. Money is being spent by very few people. You know, you see in a county, money for tea and mandazi, 60 million, like in my county, 60 million is just appropriated for tea and mandazi during break time. Yet the 60 million can be used to construct 60 ECD classrooms. And for a county that has 20 wards, those are about 3 ECD centers per ward. So I want to commend really Senator Ledama for this very good bill and timely bill, which then is fashioned to close in the gaps that are there in the oversight ecosystem that includes the county assembly, which is very weak, the DCI, the ESCC, and even the Senate. When working as a corporate, it might not be as effective as when we allow individual senators also to take part in the oversight. With that, I support, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Mwaruma. Now that's the end of the debate. There are no more senators who are wishing to contribute to this debate. So I request the mover, Senator Ledama Olekina, to reply.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me begin by thanking my colleagues. And I'll start with the two distinguished senators who are here for having demystified this bill. I want to thank Senator Johnson Mwaruma. I thank Senator Beatrice Ogola, Senator Consolata Wakwambumbi, the Deputy Party Leader of ODM, Senator Geoffrey Otsotsi, Senator James Muranga, Senator John Methu, Senator Mujihanji Faki, Senator Samson Cheralgei, Senator Moses Kajwang, the Majority Leader Aaron Cheriot, and Senator Edwin Sifuna, and my dear sister, Professor Margaret Kamara. Madam Speaker, let me begin first by putting it on record that my sister and I, Senator Kamara, have consulted widely on this matter, and she's now finally gone back to the position she had on this very bill back in April 3rd, 2019. In April 3rd, 2019, and this is why I love Parliament, because, you know, Parliament has got records. And in 3rd of 2019, my dear sister concluded the bill by saying that, with those remarks, I support and congratulate Senator Olekina. When we looked at this, we said it is always good to keep records, because then she's got an opportunity to understand the bill. One, let me try to, as I reply, to further demystify this bill. And I'm very happy because all the senators who have spoken on this bill have enriched this bill. They have enriched this bill to a point where I'll be sitting with the Secretariat to be able to amend certain provisions to make this bill a better bill. Madam Speaker, when I first moved this bill in 2019, about 16 senators spoke on this bill, including 3 governors currently. I remember Senator Sakaja spoke heavily on this bill, enriched the bill. Senator of Makueni, Senator Orengo, Senator Kamar, all those, Senator Johnson Mwaruma, I believe, spoke on this bill. And we all agreed that it is imperative to come up with a legal mechanism where the senators can be able to oversight counties. Madam Speaker, what I've heard from my colleagues, and I want to point clearly to the senior counsel, Okongo Omogeni. Okongo Omogeni, while contributing to this bill, he actually made me see areas that I had left out that are the things that we are grappling with today on a daily basis. Today, if you ask my dear brother Senator Sifuna to be able to comment on anything, he will tell you, listen to the ground. What is the ground saying? But we are here under Article 2 of the Constitution of Kenya to be able to represent the interests of the people who have elected us. Now, Senator Okongo Omogeni pointed out Section 4 of this bill on this issue of public participation, where he suggests, and I agree with him entirely, that citizens should be given an opportunity to vote during public participation. If you have 100 people in the hall, let those people vote, 100 people vote, for you to be able to implement this project. Madam Speaker, what led me to come up with this bill is the biggest monster that we have both in the national government and the county government, which is called supplementary budgets. Madam Speaker, the issue of CIDP and ADP. CIDP is a 5-year plan. A governor comes and goes to, for instance, Narok County has got 30 wards. You know, Taita Taveta has got 30 wards, 20 wards. So he will go to a ward. And yesterday, I was able to demonstrate clearly with my sister, Senator Margaret Kamwar, where a governor goes to Sergoit Ward and says to Sergoit Ward, these are the plans that I have for you for 5 years. This is what I'm going to do for 5 years for you. And then some skewed public participation is carried out on an annual basis to come out and say, this is what we are going to do today. But before the end of that financial year, 2, 3, or 4 supplementary budgets are brought and passed through the assemblies. Whatever plans that governor had, which the citizens said, we agree with you, these are the projects that we want, they are thrown out of the bus. And the governor decides, I'm just going to do a tiny little road here. I did a road for you. That was not our interest. So, Madam Speaker, I agree with the distinguished senator who have spoken, that we will amend Section 4 and include the following in that Section 4. 1, a vote by the citizen, so that when a governor comes to Sergoit Ward or goes to Ildamat Ward, where I come from, gives me a plan for 5 years, this bill is calling for collective responsibility. An MCA will be seated there. The senator will be seated there. The governor will be seated there. This is public funds. We say Narok County is getting 10 billion shillings a year. Out of those 10 billion divided, if you divide it whichever way you divide, after you've removed salaries and other remunerations, you say for your ward, Ildamat Ward, for the 5 years, I'll give you 500 million. If you give me 500 million for the 5 years, let the people of Ildamat Ward decide that for the 5 years that this governor is going to be in office, these are the projects that we are going to do. So every year, insisting on these public halls is so that we can have a formal location where we can have a monitoring and evaluation officer. And this is why, if you look at the bill, if you go to the bill, I believe it's section, I know the bill of it, I just want to go specifically to the section where it talks about the senator. You have a monitoring and evaluation officer or office, which can have many other people working under it. You have an implementation officer and you have an auditor, who are all working to support the Auditor General, to support the control of budget, and also to support the Senate as an institution. Because, Madam Speaker, it is ably deputized by the distinguished senator from Taita Taveta, Park. So the only way for us to move away from the aspect of being morticians to being people who are seeing that public money is being utilized properly, and there is accountability, is by involving the citizens. So the citizens of Ildamat Ward, and I will amend Section 4C, and say they will say the governor will then now take the plans, because the executive is the one who comes up with the plans. Develop the plans, you know, for the 5 years. When they develop the plans for the 5 years, they are dissected into plans for 1 year. So on that particular day, they will say, for this financial year, we will build a hospital for you in Eldermat Ward. Then the residents of Eldermat Ward say, no, 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 no. We do not want a hospital. We already have a hospital which is near in Mosiro Ward. We can go and take our people to that hospital. What we need, Mr. Governor, is we need roads for us to be able to take our foods into the market. Now, the governor will be bound by this legislation to make sure that what the people of Eldermat Ward or what the people of Sergoit Ward in Uasin Gishu County have said they want their money to be utilized in this financial year is what will be delivered. So, Madam Speaker, Section 4 will be amended on this bill, and that is why I'm so happy that everyone who spoke on this bill enriched this bill further. So when you look at Section 4C, it says clearly that all persons shall, in performance of their function under this Act, be guided by the following principle. We go to C. C says the right of the residents, communities, and organizations in a county to be affected by decisions on the finance of the respective county to be consulted and involved in decision-making process. Madam Speaker, we will amend that section and further tie in the annual development plan and the CIDP. So even the work of the Auditor General will be very simple. Even the work of the Controller of Budget will be very simple. Because the Controller of Budget, who is currently under the law, the Constitution, Article 228 of the Constitution, mandates her to oversee the implementation of budgets, which means it's very simple. County government of Narok, the assembly passes the budget. Once they have passed that budget, they upload it to the Controller of Budget. The role of the Controller of Budget now is just to see that whatever you have in that budget is what you are implementing. Madam Speaker, if tomorrow the County Assembly decides we have a supplementary, the Controller of Budget will just be limited to that new supplementary. The first budget will be thrown to the trash. So now we are looking at the supplementary budget. So, Madam Speaker, this piece of legislation, before a supplementary budget is moved, the governor will now be tasked to go back and sit down with the members of Sergoit Ward, with members of Eldermat Ward, with members of Mosiro Ward, Kilgore Central Ward, and say, what were the priorities? This is representation, this is accountability, as per the Constitution, public finance management, transparency. That is the only way we are going to be able to leapfrog, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the President keeps talking about leapfrogging this economy, this society, for us to be able to leave these issues of poverty behind. How do you explain, Madam Speaker, a situation where in Narok North, as an example, during the drought of the 80s, Narok North still fed this country. But today, Narok North will continue feeding this country, but guess what? Food will rot in the farms because they have no roads. They have no roads to be able to bring that food to either Makueni, or either Kajiado, or any other part of this country which sometimes is hit hard by the drought. So this bill, Madam Speaker, will give the residents of Narok North an opportunity. And I thank the good Senior Counsel Okongo Mogeni for reminding me that we need to be prescriptive. And we also need to be intentional in making sure that the citizen voice has been heard. So to conclude on that one particular point, is that on the citizen voice, we will be amending Section 4C or Section 4 to include a section where the citizens who are carrying out public participation then vote. Madam Speaker, I was reading the submissions of Senator Margaret Kamar back in 2019, when she was contributing on this bill. And one of the things that struck me is that she said she was attending a public participation meeting. And in this public participation meeting, a CCM came in and said, you guys, you either take this money or I take it back and give it to other people. With this bill, that CCM will now be reminded that he or she is a servant of the people who elect us. We say, listen to the ground. What is the ground telling us? The ground is telling us that we don't have roads. But what do governors do? They decide they will come and build a hospital and give a contract to one of their friends and get kickbacks. Now the people will be saying, at the end of the financial year, you allocated 500 million shillings to this ward. At the end of 5 years, you allocated 1 billion to this ward, if it is possible. And you can add everything together, even with the World Bank money, the grants, national government grants. It will be very clear to be able to tell how are wards being supported. Madam Speaker, this bill will bring a form of equity. Because the citizens now will now be saying, it doesn't matter whether I voted for your government. The fact that you are now the head of this government, you must ensure some form of equity, which means you will come with your annual development plan, you'll come with your CIDP plan, and that CIDP will take into consideration the amount of money or taxes paid by all residents of that county. So even the work of MCAs will become easier. You know, we had these big debates of ward development fund, which is unconstitutional. We had this debate of, what do you call what the MPs get? CDF, which is also unconstitutional. You know, so in this case, in fact, where Raila Amolo Odinga is sitting, listening to us speak, he's saying, yes, the spirit of devolution. My spirit is still awake. It is still moving these people. We have to fight for devolution. We have to make sure that devolution works, Madam Speaker. Devolution will work where everyone, regardless of where you come from, you are taken into consideration, regardless of who your governor is, whether you voted for that governor or not, that MCA will have power. Madam Speaker, there are a few concerns which were raised. And Senator Methu, yesterday while contributing, raised an issue which, of course, I want to address. And I want to actually let him know that I will be changing the words from the CCM may make regulations to shall make regulations, so that we make it mandatory, and so that they don't change certain things. Number two, there was also an issue of the number of staff which were being so prescriptive in the bill, reducing them to 3. We will now then change that to a minimum of 3, because also, depending on how much there is, we'll change that to a minimum of 3. Now, the issue of public halls, these are things that people have discussed. I know Senator Kajwang raised an issue of the public halls. Senator Mwaruma brought up the issue of the public halls. Let me try to demystify the reason as to why we saw it fit to be able to set up these public halls. Right now, we are pushing so much on the issue of public participation. Without a gazetted location for public participation, governors will get an excuse and they'll just create names and say that we carried out public participation in this particular place. You as a senator, Senator Mwaruma, whenever you want to meet with the resident of a particular ward, sometimes you may end up just having a meeting in a field, and sometimes it ends up just being a political rally, but people don't get an opportunity to engage you. There's something really attractive about town halls engagements. You know, I like looking at the Hansard and seeing the way those who came before us debated. You will see them all seated, like the way they sit in the UK, and the Prime Minister will come, and there'll be an engagement. People will be able to talk. We are now talking about public money. Sometimes it is very difficult out in the open for you to be able to say, last year, these are the records of our meeting last year. This is what you said you wanted done. You wanted that road to Kapenguria built. You wanted that road to Tana River built. You wanted that road to Taita Taveta. Particularly if you look at the issue of Taveta and Taita Taveta. If there is a place where there are two wards which are near, you don't need to put a hall, one hall, in each and every ward. You can say, let's work together. And most cases, Madam Speaker, we get a lot of grants that come from the World Bank, grants that come from the national government. Nothing stopped this House from having what we call conditional grants. We worked so hard and we finally changed that issue of conditional grants. Because before I think the fourth generation revenue formula, we used to have conditional, and now we have a piece of legislation called additional allocation. So now, in this additional allocation, nothing stops us. Where the county does not have money, it can apply for conditional grants, where money is coming specifically to be able to build that hall where people can engage. We achieve so much here, Madam Speaker, because we have these Senate chambers where we engage. We have different opinions, you know, from the minority side and the majority side. We debate on issues. When it comes to the issue of our resources, Madam Speaker, how do we oversight them? How do we ensure that we are actually doing what the citizens want us to do? So I want to beseech my colleagues not to look at these halls as if they are other added expenditures, but to look at them as the basic necessity. You want to go to school and learn. You cannot just learn under a tree in the 21st century. You need a classroom. And in that classroom, you can put your books. In America, Madam Speaker, which is my second home, my little town of Concord, there's a town hall. Whenever there's any development that needs to be done, whenever there are issues that needs to be discussed about an area, today, Madam Speaker, we are talking about issues that are affecting this country. Sex trafficking of young kids. Those can be brought down to town halls to be discussed. So this hall will not be only strictly for the purpose of discussing the issue of oversight. It will be the issues of the community. You know, let us discuss, how do we work together? Madam Speaker, we have the spirit of Nyumba Kumi. How do we meet in the Nyumba Kumi? How do we ensure that there is security? Right now, there was a video which was trending, and let me begin by saying, I commend those officers in Diani who showed discipline, who sat there. When they were doing their job, you can do whatever you want to do. There was a foreigner who had been, who looked like he was high on cocaine or something else, who was insulting the police officer, including even spitting at him. But the officer remained calm because he's trained to be disciplined. You can do whatever you want to do, you know. Now, Madam Speaker, that officer was able to remain calm. We remain calm as well. We are insulted on a daily basis. But sometimes we're insulted on social media, we don't feel the pain of the citizens. When we have a social hall where we are mandated by law to sit there, to be able to oversight the funds, when a citizen stands up and tells us that all you're doing is talking and not doing anything, we'll feel the pain. Madam Speaker, in the last parliament, we went to Wasingishu County. Everyone, Orengo was there, Madam Speaker, when we had the Senate Mashinani in Wasingishu. We had Senator Mtula Kilonzo, Senator Sakaja, who sit on the other side. And one senior citizen stood up and said, you people, you are nothing. All you do is talk, and there's nothing you do for us. The prices of maize have gone down, you're not doing anything. We had a hall where the citizens of that area were now able to express their view, to communicate to the people they pay a salary. I'm paid a salary by the citizens of Kenya. These are the people who pay me. The residents of Narok County pay me a salary. So for me to come up with this piece of legislation and have a place where we can be able to go and meet with them in the open is really something which will ensure that there is progress. It is wrong, Madam Speaker, that every time all we do is just give empty promises. We have no way of monitoring them. This bill, Madam Speaker, I hope that the Senate will pass it this time. You know, Senator Kisang and I have consulted heavily on the content of this bill. And I just want to assure my colleagues, the 17 senators, 18 plus Kisang, who spoke on this bill, that we are going to incorporate everything. And this time around, I have two Hansard's report, Madam Speaker. I have the Hansard report of 2019, and I have the Hansard report of 2025. The wise men, the good leaders who are now governors, who contributed heavily on this, will sit down with the Secretariat and reach the bill so that this bill can outlive us. You know, one of the biggest problems we have, Madam Speaker, is that sometimes we develop legislation that are amended on an annual basis. You know, a case in point are the election laws. They are always amended because they are there to fulfill certain interests. I think it is time now, Madam Speaker, that we develop legislation that will be able to outlive us. That's number one. And this County Oversight and Accountability Bill, Madam Speaker, is a piece of legislation that I hope will be able to outlive us. I hope that will define public participation. Madam Speaker, before I end, I just want to comment a little bit on the submissions by the Majority Leader yesterday in terms of public participation. In the last Parliament, Madam Speaker, we agonized. I remember the former Attorney General, Amos Wako, had sponsored a public participation legislation. That public participation legislation did not see the light of day. It didn't. Courts have now been very clear on it, that anything we do ensures that public participation is carried out. I agree with the Majority Leader that it is imperative that we have one piece of legislation that deals entirely with the procedures of public participation. The difference between that piece of legislation and this piece of legislation is that the proposed piece of legislation is setting up a process that involves the public in accountability. It is wrong, Madam Speaker, for me to sit here and fight so hard, sit here until 6:30, sit until 2 a.m. sometimes, for money to go to Narok County, and I cannot oversight. Number two, for the citizens of Narok County to tell me that the money you sent, we have not seen it. It's just being eaten. I want to be able to look back and say, now you are involved in this. To conclude, Madam Speaker, because I see my time is up, we're very lucky in this Senate. And we are lacking in this sense, in the Senate and the National Assembly. Because when the national government is, when the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Treasury is developing the budget, we as a representative of the people are part of that process. The first thing that comes up is a budget policy statement. So we know the estimates which are coming up, what are they? Number two, we have the medium-term debt strategy paper. Then it has to come here for us to pass. The other one, after that, we go to the division of revenue. After the division of revenue, the county government has their money, the national government has their money. This bill, Madam Speaker, is proposing, and this is where we'll be very clear on it when I amend Section 4, to involve the citizen in the budget-making process, where when the governor comes in and says, this is my plan, this is the money that I've been given by the Senate, The assembly will be seated there. And they will go through it and say, for Narok County with 30 wards, this is the money that we've done our analysis with the CCM, Treasury, and we've agreed we will give each ward X amount of money. Now, it's up to you, the citizens. I want you to be involved. Let us walk this journey together. Let us decide how we are going to spend this money. That is the only time, Madam Speaker, that I, as a senator, together with the Senate Committee on Park, together with the entire Senate in plenary, can be able to clearly oversight. And Article 96 of the Constitution of Kenya will be fully implemented. Right now, there's a big debate between the role of an individual senator versus the role of the Senate as a body. But we are elected as senators to represent the interest of our people, our counties, and their governments. Madam Speaker, because time is up, I'd like to reply and request that the putting of the question be deferred to another day. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Senator, for those very insightful points. And the putting of the question is deferred to the convenience of Senate. Honourable members, I'm taking the discretion from the Speaker's seat to defer order number 9 to order number 16 because they require a quorum threshold in the House, which we do not have right now. So that is deferred. And I'm also taking the discretion to defer order number 22 to 28. And for two reasons, time is up, and the movers of this motion may not be in the House today. Honourable Senators, it is now 6:30 p.m., time to adjourn the House. The Senate therefore stands adjourned until tomorrow, Thursday, 30th October 2025 at 2:30 p.m. Thank you.